The forgotten corner of the city the rain had stopped, leaving the concrete sidewalk glistening under the dim streetlights of downtown. In a quiet corner where few people bothered to look, Zara Chen sat cross-legged on a worn blanket, her nimble fingers working magic with materials most would consider worthless. Plastic grocery bags, discarded fabric scraps, even old newspapers were being transformed into something extraordinary. At 26, Zara had learned that survival meant creativity. 3 years ago, she had lost everything when her small fashion startup collapsed, leaving her with nothing but debt and shattered dreams. The fancy apartment was gone, the studio space was repossessed, and even her closest friends had disappeared when the money ran out. But what remained was her gift for seeing beauty where others saw trash. The art of survival tonight. She was putting the finishing touches on her latest creation, a dress made entirely from translucent plastic bags in shades of blue and silver. Under her skilled hands, the cheap material had been pleated, twisted, and sewn into flowing layers that caught the light like water. The bodice was structured with thin wires she had salvaged from old electronics, creating an elegant silhouette that would not look out of place on a red carpet. Another masterpiece for an audience of zero, she whispered to herself, holding up the dress to admire her work. Despite everything, Zara refused to let bitterness consume her talent. Each dress she created was a small victory against the circumstances that had brought her to the streets. A few early evening joggers passed by. Without a glance, a businessman hurried past, talking loudly on his phone about stock prices and quarterly reports. To them, she was invisible, just another homeless person they preferred not to see. But Zara had grown used to being overlooked. It gave her freedom to create without judgment, to experiment with ideas that traditional fashion houses would never dare attempt. An unexpected observer, what Zara did not notice, was the man in the expensive charcoal suit who had been watching her from across the street for the past 20 minutes. Vincent Sterling, founder and CEO of Sterling Technologies, had been walking to his car after a frustrating board meeting when something caught his eye. At first, he thought he was seeing things. Was that woman actually sewing plastic bags into clothing? Vincent was known in business circles for his sharp instincts and ability to spot potential where others saw problems. His company had grown from a small startup to a billion-dollar empire by investing in innovative solutions that others dismissed as impossible. But this was different. This was not about technology or profit margins. This was about raw, undeniable talent hidden in the most unlikely place. He watched as Zara held up the dress, examining every detail with the critical eye of a perfectionist. Even from a distance, Vincent could see that what she had created was remarkable. The way the light played through the layered plastic created an almost ethereal effect. It was sustainable fashion taken to an artistic level he had never imagined possible. The courage to approach after another 10 minutes of observation, Vincent made a decision that would change both their lives. He crossed the street, his polished leather shoes clicking against the wet pavement. As he approached, Zara looked up, her dark eyes meeting his with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. "Excuse me," Vincent said, his voice gentler than Zara expected from someone who looked like he owned half the city. "I could not help but notice your work. That dress is absolutely incredible." Zara instinctively pulled the dress closer to her chest, protective of her creation. She had learned to be suspicious of well-dressed strangers who showed sudden interest in her situation. Too often, their concern came with conditions or hidden agendas. "Thank you," she replied cautiously. "But I am not looking for charity." Vincent raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "This is not about charity. I am genuinely amazed by what you have created. I have never seen anyone transform discarded materials into something so beautiful. How long have you been designing?" Question caught Zara off guard. When was the last time someone had asked about her work rather than her circumstances? She found herself studying his face, looking for signs of mockery or pity, but found only sincere interest. "A glimpse of the past. I studied fashion design in college," Zara admitted, her voice growing stronger. "Had my own studio for a while. But things did not work out the way I planned. Now I create because I have to. It is the only thing that makes sense anymore. Vincent nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes the most powerful art comes from the most challenging circumstances. What you are doing here, creating beauty from waste, solving sustainability problems while making something genuinely gorgeous, this is revolutionary. Zara felt something she had not experienced in years. Recognition. Not pity, not sympathy, but genuine appreciation for her talent. But this stranger saw what she had been trying to express through her work. The idea that fashion could be both beautiful and responsible. The proposal? I have a proposition for you, Vincent continued, pulling out a business card. My company is hosting a sustainability innovation showcase next week. We are bringing together inventors, artists, and entrepreneurs who are finding creative solutions to environmental challenges. Would you be interested in displaying your work? There, Zara stared at the card, reading the elegant lettering. Sterling Technologies. She had heard of the company, knew it was one of the most successful tech firms in the country. This had to be some kind of mistake. I think you have the wrong person, she said, trying to hand back the card. I am not an entrepreneur. I am just someone who sews plastic bags because I cannot afford real fabric. Vincent smiled, and for the first time, Zara noticed how his eyes crinkled at the corners when he was genuinely amused. You are exactly the right person. What you have created here tonight is more innovative than anything I have seen from established fashion houses. You are solving real problems with limited resources, creating beauty from waste, and doing it, all with incredible skill. That is precisely what innovation looks like. A moment of hope as the evening grew darker and the streetlights flickered on, Zara found herself in an impossible situation. Part of her wanted to believe that this was real, that someone actually valued her work enough to offer her a platform. But another part, the part that had been hurt and disappointed too many times, warned her to be careful. Why would you want to help me? She asked directly. What do you get out of this? Vincent considered the question carefully. Honestly. My company has been looking for ways to make a real impact on sustainability. We have the technology and the resources, but we have been missing the creative vision. You have something we need, and maybe we have something you need. It could be a partnership that benefits everyone. The word partnership hung in the air between them. When was the last time anyone had spoken to Zara as an equal? As someone with something valuable to offer rather than someone who needed to be saved? I would need to think about it, she said finally, tucking the business card into her worn jacket pocket. Of course, Vincent replied. Take all the time you need, but Zara, I hope you will consider it. The world needs to see what you can do. As Vincent walked away, disappearing into the night, Zara sat alone with her plastic bag dress and a business card that might change everything. For the first time in 3 years, she allowed herself to imagine a future beyond the streets, a future where her talent could flourish again. She carefully folded the dress and packed it away with her other creations, but kept the business card in her hand, turning it over and over as she contemplated a decision that could lead to triumph or heartbreak. Either way, she knew her life was about to change. The morning of decision, Zara woke up in the small shelter where she had been staying. Vincent's business card still clutched in her hand. She had barely slept, her mind racing with possibilities and fears. The card felt both like a lifeline and a potential trap. After 3 years of disappointment, hope was a luxury she could barely afford. She carefully examined her reflection in the cracked mirror of the shelter's bathroom. Her clothes were clean but worn, her hair needed proper care, and she had the tired look of someone who had been fighting just to survive. How could she possibly fit into Vincent's world of innovation, showcases, and business partnerships? But then she thought about the dress she had created the night before, and the genuine admiration in Vincent's eyes when he saw it. Maybe it was not about fitting into his world. Maybe it was about bringing her world, her perspective, into spaces that desperately needed fresh vision. The call that changed everything. 3 days later, Zara made the call. Vincent answered on the second ring, as if he had been waiting for her decision. I want to do the showcase, she said without preamble, but I have conditions. I am listening, Vincent replied, and she could hear the smile in his voice. I want to create a full collection, not just one dress. And I want to tell the real story behind sustainable fashion, Not some sanitized version that makes people feel good without understanding the actual challenges. Done, Vincent said immediately. What do you need? It's the workshop of dreams a week. Later, Zara found herself in a bright, spacious workshop that Vincent had arranged for her use. It was filled with every tool she could possibly need, from professional sewing machines to design software, but most importantly, it had bins full of discarded materials from various industries. Fabric scraps from luxury fashion houses, plastic, waste from manufacturing, even electronic components that could be repurposed into stunning accessories. Vincent had also arranged for her to work with Emma Rodriguez, a young sustainability expert who helped Zara understand the impact of each material choice. Together, they developed a collection that was not just beautiful, but told a complete story about waste consumption and renewal. The collection takes shape over the next month. Zara poured every ounce of her creativity and experience into 7 stunning pieces. Each garment represented a different aspect of the throwaway culture and its transformation into something precious. The opening piece was an evening gown made from plastic water bottles, heated and shaped into delicate petals that created a flowing, organic silhouette. Under stage lights, it looked like liquid silver. The second was a business suit constructed entirely from newspaper and magazine pages, but treated with a special technique that made it appear like high-end tweed. The pattern was created by carefully selecting articles about environmental destruction and renewal, so that the garment itself became a readable story. The centerpiece was a wedding dress that took Zara 3 weeks to complete. Made from discarded lace curtains, plastic bag linings, and electronic wire for structure, it was a masterpiece that seemed to glow from within. The train was embedded with tiny LED lights powered by a small battery pack, creating the effect of stars trailing behind. The wearer, an unexpected partnership as they worked together. Zara and Vincent discovered they shared more than just a passion for innovation. They both understood what it meant to take risks, to believe in ideas that others dismissed as impossible. Vincent told her about the early days of his company, when investors laughed at his vision of sustainable technology. Zara shared stories of her design school years when professors told her that eco-fashion would never be commercially viable. Late nights in the workshop became less about work and more about conversation. They talked about art, about business, about the responsibility that came with success. Vincent was fascinated by Zara's ability to see potential in everything, while Zara was inspired by his determination to use wealth and influence for positive change. You know, Vincent said one evening as they put the finishing touches on the final piece, I originally thought I was offering you an opportunity, but I think you have given me something much more valuable. What is that? Zara asked, looking up from the intricate beadwork she was creating from recycled glass. Purpose, he replied simply. I had been successful, but I had forgotten why success mattered. Working with you has reminded me that business should be about more than profit. It should be about making the world better. The night of the showcase, the Sustainability Innovation Showcase, was held in the main atrium of Sterling Technologies, transformed into an elegant gallery space. Business leaders, environmental activists, fashion editors, and investors mingled. Among displays of groundbreaking innovations, all eyes were drawn to the corner where Zara's collection was displayed. When the formal presentations began, Zara took the stage, wearing a simple black dress she had created from upcycled fabric. She was nervous, but determined to tell her story honestly. 3 years ago, I lost everything, she began, her voice clear and strong. I ended up on the streets with nothing but my skills and my refusal to give up on beauty. What I learned during that time is that innovation is not born in boardrooms or laboratories. It is born from necessity, from the determination to create something better with whatever you have. She gestured to her collection, each piece illuminated perfectly under the gallery lights. Every item you see here was created from materials that someone else threw away. But more than that, each piece represents a choice. We can continue to treat our planet like a garbage dump, or we can learn to see waste as an opportunity for transformation. The standing ovation in the audience was completely silent as Zara finished her presentation. Then, slowly, one person began to clap. then another. Within moments, the entire room was on their feet, applauding not just her work, but her courage and vision. But the real surprise came when Vincent took the stage next. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I want to announce that Sterling Technologies is launching a new division focused on sustainable fashion innovation. And I am proud to announce that Zara Chen will be leading this initiative as our Chief Creative Officer." Zara felt her knees go weak. This was beyond anything she had dared to dream. The beautiful ending 6 months later. Zara stood in her own design studio, a bright, airy space filled with the hum of creativity and purpose. The Sterling Sustainable Fashion Division had become one of the most talked about initiatives in the industry, with major retailers lining up to collaborate on eco-friendly collections. But the most beautiful change was not professional. It was personal. Vincent appeared in the doorway of her office, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing the gentle smile that had become so familiar and precious to her. "How is the new collection coming along?" he asked, settling into the chair across from her desk. "Better than I ever imagined," Zara replied, gesturing to the sketches and fabric samples scattered around the room. "We are getting requests from designers all over the world who want to learn these techniques." "And how are you doing?" Vincent asked, his voice soft with concern and affection. Zara looked around at her studio, at the team of talented designers working on sustainable innovations, at the man who had seen her potential when she was sitting on a street corner with nothing but plastic bags and dreams. "I am more than doing well," she said, reaching across the desk to take his hand. "I am exactly where I belong." Vincent squeezed her hand gently. "We make a good team, do we not?" "The best," Zara agreed, her eyes sparkling with the joy of someone who had found not just professional success, but also love in its most unexpected form. Outside the studio windows, the city bustled with its usual energy. But inside, its people who had found each other against all odds continued to prove that the most beautiful transformations often come from the most unlikely beginnings. Zara had learned that sometimes, when you wear your dreams boldly enough, the right person will see them and help you make them real. And in a world that often discarded what it deemed worthless, they had created something invaluable together. A love story built on mutual respect, shared vision, and the belief that everyone deserves a second chance to shine. The end.